South Sudan is a country that is emerging from conflict and will be required to address the issues of repression and systematic human rights violations emerging from periods of conflict. This therefore requires that transitional justice system be in place to address cases that the normal justice systems will not be able to provide an adequate response depending on their nature and the need for reconciliation and healing. Therefore, the initiative of transitional justice primarily seeks to empower victims, marginalized groups, and communities affected by conflict to achieve accountability, justice, redress, reconciliation, and sustainable peace. Hence, both security sector reforms and transitional justice seeks to reform dysfunctional security structures and build effective security sectors that respect human rights and can work well in consonance. To achieve this, it is important to note that justice-sensitive approach to security sector reforms should focus on reforms within a broader security sector reforms program, which should include building the integrity of the security system, establishing effective accountability, strengthening its legitimacy, and empowering citizens. Further, it is important to note that security sector reforms are a political and technical process of improving state and citizens' security. This is mainly through making security provisions, management, and oversight more effective and more accountable within the framework of democratic, civilian control, rule of law, and respect for human rights as a step towards reconciliation and prevention of new violence. The desired end state of security sector reforms is frequently described as democratic control of security institutions operating highly, effectively, and efficiently in accordance with international law. It is against the affirmations that this workshop comes at an opportune moment when South Sudan is undertaking comprehensive security sector reforms under the auspices of the Strategic Defense and Security Review Board and within the framework of the revitalized peace agreement. The revitalized peace agreement tasks the SDS Board with the mandate of reformulating South Sudan's defense and security policies, requiring the board to rely on regional and international best practices and expert opinions. In that regard, RJMEC applauds the board for the progress it has made to date, including validating all the defense and security sector policy frameworks, which now awaits presentation to the principals for approval and further presentation to the National Security Conference. RJMEC expects the approval process of the recently validated security sector policy framework to be expedited and concluded. RJMEC also encourages an immediate adoption of supportive policy and practices by security sector actors and institutions towards Chapter 5 of the RRPs in the immediate and long term, in line with one of the objectives of the workshop. This workshop provides an opportunity for SDSR Board to explore and appreciate the interlinkages between the transition justice process and the ongoing security sector reforms in the Republic of South Sudan. It is also a moment for the board to pause, reflect, and learn from the past as it continues to discharge its mandate on security sector reforms and transformation in South Sudan from the transitional justice perspective. I urge the board to use this workshop to explore ways of ensuring the security sector through various means, including policy, robustly supports the implementation of transitional justice processes that are to be set up so that South Sudan can one day be a country with the people reconciled with each other, living in harmony and enjoying sustainable peace. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been 5 years and a half since the signing of the RRPs and well into the end of the extended transition period. This is the longest time during which South Sudan has experienced relative peace, despite inter-communal violence in several parts of the country. It is important to note that inter-communal violence is one of the major threats to peace and security in South Sudan. In this regard, it is important that transitional justice plays a critical role in the stabilization of security in the country, where traditional peace-building mechanisms and traditional justice systems could be applied. Therefore, the SDSR board should consider transitional justice as an essential element for the enhancement of defense and security in this young nation of South Sudan. Given that we are getting ever closer to the end of the transition period, and barely 6 months to the elections which require robust security, I urge the board and the Arctic Union to move with haste and complete review of the policy framework and submit the same to the Transition National Legislative Assembly for approval and adoption. RJMF will remain seized of its mandates and continue to call on adherence to hierarchies and full implementation of the critical tasks, particularly those touching on security sector reforms and transformation. RJMF stands shoulder to shoulder with the people of South Sudan in their quest for sustainable peace.